I now invite the moderator of the session. Please welcome Shri Sunil Marthia, CEO, MetalX. As we all would know, MetalX is world's first and only database-driven marketplace. Sunilji, over to you. So audience, you are right now with us in Hall 1, and this is the place where we will have the discussion on the metals. As you see, the panelists are joining us. Extremely honored to have with us Mr. Mir Mushtaba, Vice President, VMR, and Managing Director with Jupiter Metals. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We have with us Shri Ritesh Maheshwari as well. We're expecting a couple of other panelists to join. And audience, keep those questions coming. As you can see, Engineer Salam Sharif has also joined us. A warm welcome. I see audience asking a lot of questions and also settling in. This is a virtual conference spread over 3 days, and we're all learning in the digital space how we get connected. So we're waiting for the moderator, Shri Sunil Marthia, to join us. Sunil, can you hear my voice? To the audience, as you listen to the views of the panelists, if you've got any questions, please write them.
Gentlemen, I think I have a problem. I'm sorry to interrupt. I have a problem. I'm overhearing the hole number 2 because I shifted to hole number 2 earlier. So how do I stop the hole number 2 voice? Okay, 1 second. Hello?
Hello,
Yes,
sir.
we can hear you.
Reload the page.
Okay. I'm okay now, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sharif, your voice is loud and clear. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. We landed. We heard that we were asked to shift to hole number 2, so we did, but now we're back in the same proper location. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You are at the right place. So is the audience. We're waiting for Sunilji to join us.
Sunilji is just only 2 minutes. He's getting some connection issue.
Okay. Okay. So, audience, if you got any thoughts on this topic, you can share, and I'll be happy to read out those so that the panelists can listen as to what are the audience views on the outlook and market trends of metals, ferrous and non-ferrous, and growth opportunities. So just to bring
you, we'll be going into more of a Q&A. That's what we were asked to do, unless we would have to start up with some introductory presentation and then go to the Q&A. What do you suggest?
So, Mr. Sharif, we'll be joined by the moderator, Sunil Marthia, and I leave it to his best judgment. But you're right, we probably will have some opening remarks so that we can get your thought on the topic, and then it'll be a Q&A, crisp question, crisp answers.
Excellent. All set.
So we'll just wait for 30 seconds for the moderator to join us.
So Sunil sir is online, I guess.
I can brief the panelists that right before this, we had the inaugural session where the Honorable Union Minister for Shipping joined us. And he did say that India is shaping Maritime Vision 2030, where a lot of push will be given to digital technology. So I see Sunilji joining us. Sunilji is the moderator for this session.
Hello.
Over to you, sir.
All well. Hello, sir. Hello and good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. I think we expect Mr. Dr. De Sarkar and Mr. Pugazenti also. Can somebody help them get on the table, please? Dr. De Sarkar and Mr. Pugazenti.
That's right.
Abhinanda, are you listening?
Hello, sir. So we have Dr. D are on the table actually.
In the meanwhile, let me start. Let me start. I hope everybody can hear me.
Very clear.
A warm welcome to everybody. A warm welcome to everybody. And sorry for a little bit of inconvenience, 10-15 minutes delay because of technical glitches here and there. It does happen sometimes. So now we are starting our first session of day one on outlook in and market trends of metals and the growth opportunities. I am Sunil Mardia, CEO Metalexis. I am the moderator for this session. For our discussion today, we have a great panel with us. And first, I would like to introduce before starting the discussions with them. Dr. De Sarkar is yet to join on the desk, so I'm not talking about him. Then the next gentleman is Engineer Salam Al Sharif, a very good friend of mine, BIR Ambassadors Chairman, BMR Honorary Chairman. He is the Chairman Sharif Group of Companies. Engineer Salam Al Sharif has 35 years experience in the metals recycling industry. His long hands-on experience has paved the way to get Sharif Metals Group of companies horizon in regional and global recognition, and currently trying to pass the legacy to the new generation. He has been awarded several prestigious recognitions outlining his enormous contribution towards the development of his industry. This is about Engineer Salam Sharif. The next gentleman is Mr. Ritesh Maheshwari from MRAI. First, Mehta who was to join, but for some personal reason he is not able to join in. And now Mr. Ritesh Maheshwari. He is the Executive Committee member, Ferrous Division, Material Recycling Association of India, Executive Director of Chevro Metallics Private Limited. Mr. Maheshwari is mathematics graduate from prestigious St. Stephen's College, New Delhi, and MBA in Finance and Marketing. He handles commodity metallics portfolio in the company. Mr. Ritesh has extensive experience in international trade with specialized focus on scrap. He is responsible for various facets of business, including development of new commodities, operations and in-house research and analysis. And next is our old friend, Mr. Mir Muzaba. Mir Muzaba is from, he's the Vice President, Bureau of Middle East Recycling. How are you, sir? And Managing Director of Jupiter Metals. Engineer by profession, Masters in Marketing, having a techno-commercial experience for more than 3 decades, founder member of BMR and ambassador of Global Recycling Foundation. He is the Managing Director of Jupiter Metals UAE. So now I would request Engineer Salam Al Sharif to put in his views for a few minutes. In the meanwhile, we'll try and get the other two gentlemen also on the board. Over to you, Mr. Salam.
Thanks a lot, Sunil ji, for such a great introduction, and mostly your proactivity in having to get such great participants in the metals fraternity has not been a strange trait of yours. You've held up several conferences in India, which I have attended to, and I was awardee for 2 of them. Um, as we all see that the pandemic have had a lot of transformation in people's lives, whether it's economy or finance, or if it is social, in all aspects across the scale, we have realized that there has been a shakeup that was just not easy to pass through and get over. However, it was just a wake up call because all mankind have thought that good times would perhaps last forever. We have forgotten that there is a gravity that can bring you back to where you have started. Now, as far as the overall economy, which has been going through a dislocation by the COVID-19 pandemic, it has really added up another nail in the coffin for the trade war that it's been between the two big conglomerates in the United States and China, which has affected badly our industry in general and commodity business in particular. So we realize that the wake-up call has had the Chinese economy into a transformation of more of uh, uh, importers rather than exporters. And we've also realized that the giant who has been importing 50% of most of the commodities across the board have now started even doing exports. So it is high time that we have to restructure our industries and our households on the private level, realizing that resources are such a precious commodities that we all have to make sure they are abundantly available within our backyard, realizing the essentiality of having the end of use and end of life materials, bringing it into a circular economy was not the trend earlier before COVID. As people have realized, they can always produce, use, and discard because they have enough wealth that they can take care of future generations. With the COVID-19, it has given us a wake-up call that one has to be prudent, have to appreciate what he has been missing out in terms of the, uh, I would say, the given um, natural air and available precious things around us which we have not appreciated. The social distancing has also made us realize that the dear ones and the loved ones that have always been around us are no more available. So we get to appreciate having to spend time with the families and having to re engineer our style of life, structure our businesses, and revamp our operations in general, being expecting the worst is yet to come. Now, the effect on commodities has been drastically, of course. I'm sorry, do you hear me? Okay, I will continue. The I would pick up the trait with regards to the Middle East, which has been mainly hit by the double impact of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, as well as the major commodities crisis, which is the main source of revenue, which is the oil. The good old oil, which has been contributing to the major GDPs of the Gulf countries, has hit an unprecedented drop, which is below zero. It has really given another wake up call to all the stakeholders and decision makers that natural resources cannot always be relied on. And it is time you have to be looking into diversification from the fossil fuels and look into renewable energies. Albeit having been on the recycling and metals platform, I can say that with all of your knowledge that our metals, which goes into one end to another, transports anywhere between 75 up to 90% of embedded energy right within. Because when we recycle the metal, it saves up to 95% of energy as low as 75%. It depends on what commodity do you recycle. So that has been shedding a light on the decision makers that it is time we should look into the recycling, the circular economy, and considering that recyclables as the seventh resource preciously as much as air, water, and oil, and natural gas and minerals, if not even more, because it will bring the opportunities of employment as well as it deploys huge billions of capital intensive industry while also preserving the natural resources for the future generations. Now, this is just an introduction that I would just leave it out there. So Neil G said you would talk for a few minutes, then we'll end up in Q&A. So that's it from my side. Thank you for giving me the lead to start introduction. Sunilji, I can talk for another 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes if you like. If you get on board, let me just know so I will just stop talking.
Sunilji, are you able to hear?
Until Sunilji comes online, I can also say that we've been developing all the public awareness as well as trying to have the involvement of all the stakeholders, whether it is through the Bureau of International Recycling, where I wear the hat of the chairman or 16 ambassadors across the board, or whether it is through the Bureau of Middle East Recycling, which is founded in 2009 in the wake of the 2008 crisis, which was quite an inevitable step to make a platform that will withhold all the stakeholders in this recycling industry on one platform. And with the founding of the association, I take the pleasure and honor to be a president for 10 years. Tell me, Amit G, when Sunil is on board so I can stop talking.
Right. I think we'll probably pause there because you've shared the introductory remarks, and Sunil
Thank you,
is
sir.
having some connectivity issue. So thank you very much, Mr. Sharif. I'd like to request Mr. Ritesh Maheshwari now from the Material Recycling Association of India to please share his opening remarks. Ritesh ji, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amit ji. I think I'm audible. You can hear
Yes.
me? All okay?
Yes. Yes. Thank
So
you.
I guess that these are the flaws of the digital connectivity. Okay, sometimes things can get really tough, right? But thankfully for all the people from the metal industry, especially people like Mr. Salam, Mr. Mustafa, myself, we can talk for hours and hours without you batting an eyelid on the industry and the kind of challenges we are facing through the pandemic. Right?
Yes.
It's kind of a once in a lifetime event for most of us. So coming back to topic, I am Ritesh Maheshwari. I am executive committee member of the Ferrous Committee of Material Recycling Association of India. MRAI, is it so called, is the apex National Association of India for all the interest of which represents the interest of the recycling industry. We have more than 1,200 members, including most regional and product associations also falling under our ambit. Our collective strength comprises of more than 20,000 small, medium, and large-scale enterprises which are directly or indirectly employing more than 25 lakh or 2.5 million people across the country. So first of all, to begin my address, which I'm making on behalf of Mr. Sanjay Mehta ji, I would like to heartily congratulate Trade Reboot and Metlexes for organizing this 3 days virtual webinar, one-of-a-kind event, and I wish the event a great success ahead. Now, as all of us are very well aware, the global pandemic, which started in India, particularly from the first lockdown imposed from the month of March, and then progressed on to April. All these sectors, all the consuming sectors have witnessed a sharp downfall in the demand. And further followed by the first lockdown, we had a couple of other lockdowns across the country. So the industry really has really gone up slowly and steadily over the last 6 to 9 months in the country. Now, India, as you all know, is the world's second largest steel producer, having an installed capacity of about 140 plus million tons as of 31st March 2020. We aspire to become a 300 million ton producer by the year 2030, which would require an additional investment of 10 lakh crore rupees by 2030 and 31 required from the industry. So the sector has a good potential. There is it invites a lot of participation of companies for organic as well as inorganic growth as well. So overall, and what I find, Ameji in particular, since you may not be directly related to our industry, I find that over the last 9 months, the captains of the industry, the leading players who are involved in our industry, like Mr. Salam, like Mr. Mir, and we have a lot of big companies involved in the MRI. Everybody has come out, stood united as a forefront reported our challenges with our customers, with our suppliers, with the government and regional associations. So everybody is working with a positive intent and working very hard to revive the industry. During for a lot of our viewers, my text is a lot of text heavy, so I'll try to restrict it to limited points. But I believe a lot of our people will be coming from non-steel background, as I see a lot of chartered accountants in our delegate list. So India's crude steel production, or the basic steel production, during the period from April 2020 till June 2020 declined by around 42% to about 16.5 million tons, as compared to 27.8 million tons in the corresponding period in the year 2019. So that is the visible immediate effect of what the lockdowns and COVID situation has brought on the country. Now, interesting to note, the Indian steel industry is basically divided into two sectors. On one hand, we have the primary producers, which are making steel by the blast furnace and the basic oxygen furnaces route. And on the second hand, we have all the secondary producers, which are making steel basically from scrap and other metallics. So the primary and secondary producers occupy close to 55 to 45% share of the market in India. Now, during these last 6 to 9 months, interestingly, it is the secondary steel producers, the industry which we represent mostly, have suffered the most out of this lockdown, because the smaller units, fragmented units spread across the country, have had to face a lot of hardships, whereas the primary steel producers have experienced a lot of support from the robust export markets, and the impact of lockdown on their operations was slightly less pronounced than what was visible in the secondary sector. Now, coming back to what the situation is right now, we are experiencing in last couple of months, there is some kind of a demand revival. The auto sector has been, of course, the major user, as well as the major sunshine sector, which is now slowly coming back to its feet. What we are seeing right now is that global automotive production, which fell by 70 to 90% in many countries, is slowly coming into speed. India's passenger car production, which got completely halted during the lockdown, has reported a 46% decline over the last period. So now we are trying to see that somehow some things are reviving. The auto demand from the automotive sector as well as construction sectors is slowly coming back to the field, and I can say that the industry right now is operating at a capacity of 85 to 90% across on pan-India basis. Another part of my presentation or my text goes towards the raw material outlook, which I believe a lot of our viewers want to know that what is happening on towards of raw material. So if I talk about scrap, the ferrous scrap, the pre-COVID levels, the market was around close to $310, $315 per ton, CFR Nava Shiva for shredded scrap, which is one of the most commonly traded and most standard, so-called standard grade of scrap available. Immediately after the lockdown was announced, the price witnessed a downfall of 20 to 25%. There were absolutely no takers in the market. Understandably so, with no measures to take the cargo, who will buy the cargo? So the prices went down from 310, 315 to 235 to $240 per ton. Now, in the immediately after the lockdown, during the periods of April, May, June were very, very tough months, as there was a very negligible amount of trading because the production really slipped. A lot of cargoes were coming, and we had a very, very, very tough time to pass through those 3 months. That time, there was again a very, very big challenge towards cash generation, because literally nobody had the cash. Now what we see in last couple of months, things have started to turn around when the order books are coming in, the demand is moving. Now we are seeing the levels of shredded scrap again back to the levels of 315, 320 levels. And going into the winter months, we are further expecting this momentum which has come is likely to get more supported because of the supply side concerns which are very much present. The incoming generation cargoes of scrap from the European and the USA countries, which are the major exporters is going to be less and constrained. Traditionally, it is also like that during the winter months, but now also we are experiencing that what we expect and feel that the prices will be kind of stable and will be firmed up in the coming few months. And interesting thing, one more thing is there, that World Steel Association, which all of us know is the apex body of global steel producers in the world, had forecasted the global steel production to decline by about 6.5% minimum for the year 2020-21. But now they have in their recently they've come out with their revised short range outlook in the first week of October, and now they've revised that downfall into only a decline of 2.5%. So basically, the bright shots are coming across the globe, led by, of course, as usual, by China. As a matter of surprise, and the hard reality is they are going to witness a 1.5 to 2% increase in steel production in the year 2020 over 2019. Whereas all the other countries are going to have moderate to slightly higher level of declines in the coming months. Now, in terms of future outlook, we are also seeing, I'll just throw in some figures. Domestic passenger sales figures have registered a strong double-digit growth of 26.5% in September 2020 in India, wherein the domestic vehicle producers sold about 2.72 lakh units compared with 2.15 lakh units in the previous month. And among the passenger vehicles, utility vehicles, the SUVs continue to ride on new launches, as it registered an uptick of 25% almost at 96,000 units. So we are seeing sectors like these going to give a good, and the construction side also, we are seeing the government is trying to support, trying to give an impetus at all the levels. In our first section, we had Mr. Mansukh Mandalyaji, who also helped us a lot during our tough time in the last 3-4 months. Especially in negotiation with the shipping lines. So we are seeing some positive momentum. And if I look at long-term economic impact of what the COVID has had on the ferrous markets and on the metal markets, we are going to see some amount of leftover scars from this pandemic for at least 16 to 18 months ahead. Secondary sector in particular is hit more hard, more strongly by this COVID pandemic, and it will take some amount of time to recover. And a long-term effect, and of course, massive fiscal and monetary stimulus on inflation, interest rates, and investment yet to see the light of the day. We are getting a lot of assurances from the government. We are going to see we are hoping some of those plans come into the action so that the industry can benefit out of it. Still, we will continue to make efforts, continue to grow our membership, continue to give support to our members through various platforms like yours, and we are always available for your assistance. Thank you. Thank you so much, Amitji.
Thank you very much, Ritesh Maheshwari ji.
Okay. I've been muted by, okay, Amit ji, can you unmute me? Amit?
Sunil ji, we can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
please continue.
I don't know, but I thought that, okay. Yeah. Ritesh ji, that was again a very good speech. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Very strange, very strange. Ritesh ji, there are from your speech, what I can make out is always in India, there is a big difference between the primary producers and MSME producers. The MSME and the sector is always the sufferer. So that is one question that, we need the associations like MRAI, Bombay Metal Exchange and other associations to find a solution so that, how these small companies are also able to survive and grow along with the bigger companies. So that is one good take that I take from your this thing. Where is Mr. Mir? I think Abhinanda, can you help Mr. Mir come back again on the stage? Abhinanda?
Some technical issues.
I don't know, but there are some technical issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Mir is no. Okay, I have, in the meanwhile, we will continue the session. I have a question for Dr. Engineer Salam Sharif, very specific question. How are trade conflicts affecting commodity markets and how can stakeholders mitigate associated risks? That is one question.
Okay, your name is
Secondly, what is the
showing.
impact of COVID-19 on the...
Attendees on
Hello?
stage.
I think I lost
Yes.
you here,
So, the th-
Sunil ji.
I will...
Yeah.
Yeah, second
Okay.
question, right?
I hear you now.
First question you heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
First question you heard about the trade conflicts affecting commodity markets and how can stakeholders mitigate associated risks. The second question is what is the impact of COVID-19 in the Middle East and what opportunities can be taken away amidst pandemic? These are two specific questions for Engineer Salam Sharif.
Thank you for the question, Sunil ji. I think you had picked up the two major questions that may take at least an hour and a half to reply, but I'll try to make it in, say, 5 minutes.
I don't think we have.
How much time do I
Yes.
have? Five
Yeah.
minutes? You tell me so I can.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. 5 to 7 minutes. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, let me start up with the trade conflicts, which is with the common conventional wisdom that says where there is an accord and there are trade treaties, there are always stabilities and prosperity. And this is why a lot of the trade deals are finalized between stakeholders. Now, on the contrary, and the opposite analogy, now where there is a conflict and trade war, that is going to end up in having a complete negative impact on the overall economic situation of both countries. Now, it'll literally deprive the natural or the available resources from being able to transport itself from one end to another, where on one side there is an abundant resources availability, and on the other side there is a scarcity of the same. Now, what that may do is completely disturb the overall economic situation of that country. It may also financially be badly affected. It'll also rub on the employment level, on the industrial production indicator, as well as consumer confidence, which ultimately will hit the GDP of that country, which may end up, it depends on which side of the fence one is lying, it may end up in sovereign debt and a lot of problems which could be lingering and so forth and so on. Now, naturally, that has been the case with the major two conglomerates of the United States and the Chinese, where there have been a lot of impact on our metals industry in particular. For the giant dragon who is consuming more than or close to about half of the world's available material, and on the other hand, he produces the other half. Any tampering with that dragon can really shake up the entire stability of the world economic zone. Now, having said that, we realize that it is being a conflict of interest in both countries, which might have been led by a particular reason or another, but the impact is devastating, no doubt. It has also shown a lot of huge impact on our commodities like copper, zinc, and other items, which had, on one hand, been able to show a little opportunity in the context of having that fight between the two major powers. We have realized that it can give the opportunity to find other outlets for the exporting or producing country of a particular product. At the same time, it is another turning point to where maybe it is time to produce things right at home and recycle at home and end up in having relying on your own resources within your boundaries to improve your employment figures as well as create job opportunities, which will eventually improve your industrial production indicator and improve your GDP on the outset. Now, the uh, out of the doldrums, as we have seen commodities like oil, for example, which has had a very bad impact on the producing countries, albeit it was also boding well for the consuming countries because prices have come down to an extent to which has also brought their trade balance into surplus rather than deficit. If I come to the COVID-19 impact on the overall situation in the Middle East, I mean, we have had, like the rest of the world, a major destructive impact as the COVID-19 itself has caused rather more of an economic dislocation to all the sectors. So whether you talk about economic sector, commerce and trade, capital markets and investments, tourism, employment, social burdens, and also severe loss of lives. When you have lost more of your some of your loved ones, you realize that your total social status has been imbalanced. When you have quite an intimate relationship with your workers and co-workers, and you realize some had to lose their jobs or even lose some of their loved ones, their impact on productivity would definitely be different. Apart from the fact that there has been a paralyzation of different sectors of the industry, whether it is on the upstream or downstream, because the consumption of automobiles, consumption of households completely has been paralyzed for long months during the lockdowns, and which we had seen a lot of companies coming into bankruptcy. Now, capital industry and financial sector was on the outset has been bailed out by um, the major central banks by giving a stimulus packages, but that was the cream of the cherry on the top. But right in the bottom of it, it has been irreparable, and the rupture has not been possible to inhale because the fact is companies have had to lose their bottom lines, they've lost their capitals, and there has been inability to pay the debt that has created a lot of SMEs, refiltration and restructuring, if not closure, uh, of those businesses, which has ended up in having a lot of uh, difficult and impossible service debt of those loans to be maintained. So across the board, that has been the devastation and impact. Tourism has lost in the UAE and Saudi Arabia alone more than 60 to 70 million passengers throughout the uh, uh, um, historical shrines and the religious sites, as well as the Dubai lying on more than 20 million visitors a year. That has also lost a lot of households and shops, their businesses, and it has completely been irreparable. Aviation industry, the automobile industry completely has been disrupted, and mainly the oil revenue, which forms majority of the GDP in the Gulf countries, has cut down on governmental spending and spending budgets for the year of 2020, which has reduced the consumption of metals, whether it's on the upstream or downstream, to which has affected the recycling business to losing at least 40 to 50% of its business, and having those SMEs to scale down their businesses to where they can be affordable expenses for sustainability. Now, naturally, every coin has a reverse. Opportunities also have been on the platform of digital technology, as well as the fact is that we're able to convene few hundreds of people across the globe right from our small laptop in our home office is a complete dream that we've never had to think about it only a year ago. We had to travel to conferences to meet people and shake hands and put a lot of expenditures. And now we can completely, in a very comfortable home zone, end up in getting business conducted. A lot of the transportation and businesses which lost businesses was really made up by having home deliveries for the consumable items as well as food items, which has brought people into being completely into tenfolds of their revenues unexpectedly. So as we see for every coin, there is a reverse. The outcome of this complete pandemic, we should realize that one has to be always completely pragmatic and not to be extravagantly thinking on the availability of resources on push button. One has to think that it is time to really think that end of life and end of use commodities is quite a precious resources of our industry where we have to preserve and we have to take it into a circular economy concept, not to completely disregard the production and use and discard. We rather have to take the produce, use, reuse, and end up in recycling, which will save, as I said in my introductory presentation, it will save us about anywhere between 70 to about 90% of the energy, where the items we are dealing in recyclables, they possess anywhere between 70 to 90% of infinite energy right within. And with that, it has given a lot of wake up call for the stakeholders to consider. I beg your pardon, Sunilji. I will continue.
It was Mr. Mir.
Okay.
Yeah, please. It was Mr. Mir.
No, that's
He's not able to join in. Yeah.
I'll just end up in shortly if I have a little 2 minutes. Now, the stakeholders and decision makers were always thinking about our industry as insignificant and unessential industry, and they may look down on the fact that this industry deals with scrap metals. But with this pandemic, they have realized that this is a very important sector of the economy, and that is completely an essential rather business model that has to be given within the emerging economies and developing countries as on the high of the agenda, considering the fact that it is completely uh, depolluting our environment, where it reduces about 80 to 90% of the carbon dioxide. And having mentioned this pandemic, I have to share with you the fact that with all the casualties that we have seen so far worldwide, close to about a million in mankind inhabitants, we shed our tears and hearts for those loved ones who have died. But if we look into what pollution alone is causing, yearly there is about 7.5 million people who die from the impact of pollution. And if you see that on the headlines, nobody even pays heed to that number or think of the sources of those pollutions. And I'm not against the primary mining and industries, but if you think about the amount of pollution that can be mitigated and rather nullified by using the recyclable items, we realize that we can save lives of about 7.5 million people worldwide if we adopt the recycling phenomena and we take the recycling industry as our day-to-day lifestyle. Now, with that, it's been well highly addressed by the BIR, the World Recycling Federation, where I am having a chairman position for the Ambassadors Committee, or whether it is the Bureau of Middle East Recycling, which was founded in 2009, where I had the honor to be a president for 10 years and now an honorary chairman. We're trying to get the message loud and clear that recyclables are the seventh resource on this globe, and we should protect and advocate for as much as we can. So nobody thought about it as much as now after going through the pandemic of COVID-19, because we realize every resource is precious, every relative or worker or co-worker's life is precious and important. So our job is to try to maintain and look into the future generations' sustainability, within which that has to be adopted as a model of lifestyle, and all the stakeholders do have to advocate for the industry of ours as an essential industry. And with that, I think I leave it for you, Sunil Ji, not to take up more of other participants' time, but I'll be happy to take any questions afterwards.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. Can you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Engineer Salam Sharif. As your brilliantly all your points. I hope I am audible. I am audible to you,
I'm
right?
audible
I'm
to you,
audible to
right?
everybody. I'm audible to everybody. Hello.
Somehow you have two
Hello.
screens where I see there is an echo sound that is coming.
Good. Good. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, Mr. Ritesh has also joined in. I don't know why there is some. I really don't know where what kind of technical issues are there, because I can. Mr. Sarif is saying that he can see two of me,
I think you need
and
to cancel out.
Mr.
You need to quit the event and rejoin again. I think that will help the problem, I believe so.
Okay, so let me just put up a question. But where is Mr. Mir? Is Mr. Mir around?
Mr. Mir around?
Or Dr. Sarkar, is he around? Anybody?
Anybody?
Sergi,
Okay.
if
So I will
Mr.
put
Mir
two
is
small
not
questions, to
audible,
both of you.
Sunilji,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
if
Yeah,
if Mr.
yeah,
Mir is
yeah,
not
yeah.
visible on the screen, being my colleague at the BMR, I don't mind filling in for him if the time permits.
Yeah,
This
sure.
is what
Yeah,
friends
sure.
are for.
Sure. So nice of you.
So nice
So
of you.
I would like to put
I
in
would like
two
to put in
questions.
two
What I
questions.
understand
What I understand
from Mr. Sharif and
from
your
Mr. Sharif
statements
and
are
your
that
statements are
China
that
produces
China
50%,
produces
and
50%,
China at the
and
same time
China
even
at the same
consumes
time even consumes
50% of the
50%
metal
of
products.
the metal products.
Secondly,
Secondly,
even Mr. Ritesh talked
Mr.
about
Ritesh
MSME
talked about
units,
MSME
and
units, and
Mr. Sharif said
Mr.
about
Sharif said
the
about
primary
the
industry
primary
and the
industry
recycling
and the
industry.
recycling
So
industry.
we are,
So we are,
there is always a conflict of interest between the primary and the secondary, as well as primary and the recycling industry. So can we put in one line each? This is a question for both Mr. Ritesh in India and for Mr. Sharif in UAE and in world. How can the recycling industry come up, or grow much faster, much bigger? Or in the Indian context, how can the smaller industries, smaller MSME industries, or recycling industries can come up faster and better, looking to the Pradhan Mantri's, Atmanirbhar Yojana, the Indian government putting so much support for the smaller sector, MSME sector, and so many helps the government is trying to do. But what is that one or two things that as an association, whether it is BMRAI or Bombay Legislation, that we should do to get these smaller industries together and grow or make them grow faster? Mr. Ritesh, you please answer first, and then Mr. Sharif can answer on his behalf as well as on behalf of BMR, Mr. Mir Mustafa.
Yeah, so Sunilji, I got your question.
Ritesh.
Then now looking at it, I feel for growth of any industry, the things have to flow from top to bottom. And in this case, we have made a lot of representations to the government of India. The government of India is also very proactively considering to overhaul the domestic vehicle scrapping and recycling policy, as well as the material recycling policy. Both these policies are under the working, and soon hopefully we'll have some kind of policy framework as well as policy, in fact, from the government of India, which is likely to spurt this sector, which has already seen some kind of investments in last 3 to 5 years. Some of small shredders have also come up across the country, and we want to make transition from an unorganized sector into an organized sector. We have the intent, and the government is trying to come up with the policy decisions and the framework to support this kind of initiatives. So I think that is going to be a very, very big support to jumpstart the recycling industry and invite interests from a lot of Indian capitalists and entrepreneurs, as well as foreign investment as well. So that is one. Second, what we feel is that we need to attract good amount of good, attractive, unimpressionable minds and young talent into the industry more and more. We are seeing in a lot of our stakeholders, we are seeing a lot of good transitions are happening, a lot of new people are coming. So I believe training of people as well as personnel across the sector, across the entire hierarchy within the recycling organizations is likely to make the people more educated and invite interests. Sorry, you are saying something, Sunil?
I would like to add one thing.
Yeah.
I would like to add when you say young generation.
Yeah.
Is when you say young generation, is the new technology? Would the new technology be of use?
Well,
Like the
honestly, I'm not a very expert on the subject of blockchain and artificial intelligence. But of course, as we are getting into recycling, doing more and more recycling into India, so technology will of course have to be the backbone of it, and continuously inventing and continuously adopting the best practices across the globe is going to be the mainstay, because eventually it all comes down to the cost, and everybody wants to promote technology to work on the costings and reduce and work more efficiently. So of course technology is going to be the mainstay, and as far as blockchain or AI is concerned, honestly I'm not an expert on the subject to comment how that can be combined with the scrap recycling to make it more efficient, but I'm sure people who are expert in the field are going to figure out something on that. And that I can assure you that the young generation or the new generation, or even good entrepreneurs engaged in this sector, are very, very open, very, very interested to adopt these technologies to make our lives more easier, businesses more productive, and resources more accessible for everyone.
Thank you so much, Ritesh. I think now we've lost.
Good. Thank
No,
you so
no,
much,
Yes, sir.
Ritesh. I think now
he's
we've
here.
lost
He's here.
Engineer Shalam Sharif
I'm
also, is
here.
it? Is it? So, Mr.
Sunilji, I
Sharif, please
think
go ahead and give
with
your views.
regards to technology, um, it is a double-edged sword. If you use it in the recycling zone where you have to bring up your efficiency of your processing and production line of business with regards to your metals recycling, the metals productivity of production of whichever alloy you make, the handling of your recycling facilities. It's high time that manpower has to be used the minimum for the sake of health and safety and for the sake of being able to produce within your budgetary production and the bottom lines. You need the technology. However, you always need the back office high technology with regards to your software up to the mark and up to the time minute information because information is a big asset. Uh, and if you do not have a proper tie up between the production line and the office bearers administrative level on complete synchronization, you will end up in being outdated. So I am pro technology big times as much as you can as a human being still be able to be the boss and the commanding power. I am against the fact that you let the computer, let the technology, and let the AI and IoT runs your life for you, and you completely rely on that man-made mind, which could really get you in a complete virtual world that you, as a mankind and a man mind, will never be able to cope with. It is bad enough that we see the social dilemma of our kids and our loved ones sitting in one living room, not talking to each other, and having to simply face that smartphone for hours. And one incident is when it was unplanned that we had lost the Wi Fi at our home, and I came up from the parking lot, and literally I thought there was a fire broke out at home. I said, in a very outrushed panic way, what the hell has happened? Tell me, let me call 911. Let me. They said, nothing, Papa. It is just the Wi Fi is gone. And I said, after taking a deep breath, you know what? We should really make a practice to disconnect our lives from the technology for at least 1 or 2 hours a day to be able to realize that we need families to be around us, loved ones to know and get to know each other. Now, from the other side of the advantages, of course, there is advantages and disadvantages in one context here. Yes, I do need technology to communicate with my buyers and my suppliers, but I don't need the technology to take decisions of pricing formula for me because if I lose touch with Mr. Ritish or Mr. Uh, uh, Sunil or anybody, that dry relationship will never be revived. And mind that with the traditional long term buyers that we have been dealing with day to day, we have some problems when market comes down and when problems happen to be like a lockdown in India. And the last thing you want to get yourself into is dealing with a virtual buyer under an AI that you will have to kiss your money goodbye and end up in starting from scratch building each and every penny that you have earned over the years. I hope that says it enough in a frame of social, economic, and capital zone.
Very well said. Very well said, I'll say, Mr. Sharma. I think both of us are the only ones around here, I think. Alright.
How about I moderate and you
Yes,
try to give some insight? Well,
yes,
part of the technology
yes,
that I am also having to uh, uh, keep my reservation on.
yeah.
It's nice to have a very smart
Hello, can you hear
digital
me?
platform.
Hello,
Now we
hello.
hear you, sir. But
Oh,
it is
so I
also simple to pick up the right simple software platform that can get a lot of people to be able to see each other. And I am pro Zoom application that it
yeah,
seems to be simple
yeah.
Yes,
and
yes.
in the old days when I was as a student, my teacher used to tell me MSS Salam, and I said
uh,
I didn't understand the abbreviation. Then I learned that it is make it simple, stupid.
yeah. Okay, okay, everybody. I think, we have had very good time discussing and good knowledge from the two of you at least. And I'm very sorry that Mr. Mir, even though he was there, able to join. Dr. Dey Sarkar, he was also in the conference room, but he also, because of connectivity problems, could not join. And another gentleman, Mr. Pugazendi, also could not join. But in any case, I think we've discussed most of our points, most of our discussions. And I would like to thank both of you and all other panelists who were not here today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sergey, appreciate
Okay.
the opportunity.
Thanks
Look
from
forward to
PRG
your
Studio.
contribution next time, and
Thank you
you all
so much.
stay healthy and safe, and we'll be in tune shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Take care. Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye bye.